Hello there, and welcome to the Drift to the Stars. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe the house has gone quiet around you. Maybe the day has finally loosened its grip and you are here somewhere soft, letting the world grow dim at the edges. There is nothing you need to do now. Nothing to solve, nothing to carry. Just a voice in the dark and a few small wonders to turn over slowly, the way you might turn a stone smooth in your pocket. Tonight we are going to drift towards something tender. We are going to wander through the strange and quiet science of loneliness and of its opposite, which is belonging. Not to feel heavy, to feel less alone inside it. And just before we begin, if these calm, curious explorations help you unwind, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. So settle in. Let your shoulders fall. Let the breath go long. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. There is a curious thing about loneliness that almost everyone discovers and almost no one expects. It does not arrive when you are alone. It can find you in the middle of a crowded room with laughter all around, with hands reaching past you for drinks and the warm press of people on every side. You can be surrounded and still feel like a window with the lights off. How strange that the ache has so little to do with the count of bodies near you. Researchers who study this draw a clear line between two things that sound the same but are not. Solitude is simply being by yourself. Loneliness is the feeling that the connection you long for is missing, whether anyone is there or not. The two can come apart completely. A person can sit alone on a quiet porch and feel perfectly at peace. Another can stand in a packed train car and feel adrift. The feeling lives not in the room, but in the space between you and others, the sense of whether you are truly seen. So if you have ever felt it in a crowd and wondered what was wrong with you, the answer is gently this: nothing. You were only listening for something deeper than presence. And far from any crowd, far from any porch or train, there are places in the universe that hold a different kind of alone. Picture the dark between galaxies. Not the dark you know with its scatter of stars, but a darkness so complete that there is almost nothing in it at all. And somewhere out in that immense quiet, a single star is drifting. We call them rogue stars, or intergalactic stars cast out long ago, when galaxies passed too close and tore at one another, flinging some of their suns into the void. This one travels alone now. The nearest neighbor it might ever reach is not miles away, not millions of miles, but a distance so vast that light itself, the fastest thing there is, would take many thousands of years simply to cross from one to the other. It burns there in the emptiness, giving off heat and light to no one, warming nothing. And yet it is not lost. It still belongs to the great, slow turning of everything held by gravity it cannot see. There is a kind of comfort in that if you let there be. Even the most solitary thing in all the universe is still part of the whole. It is still going somewhere. So are you. But come back now, back across all that distance, back inside the small, warm shelter of your own body, because something happens there worth knowing. When someone leaves us out, when we feel rejected or unseen, it genuinely hurts. And that is not only a turn of phrase. Scientists who watched the brain during moments of social rejection found something that surprised them. The pain of being excluded lights up some of the very same regions that respond to physical pain, the deep alarm centers that wake when the body is hurt. To the oldest parts of the brain, being cast out from the group registers almost the way a wound does. This is why heartbreak can feel like an ache in the chest, why loneliness can sit in the body like something heavy and real. The brain did not invent two separate systems for two kinds of pain. It borrowed the one it already had. For most of our long history, to be separated from the others was a true danger, and so we were built to feel it sharply, to be pulled back toward the warmth of company. The hurt is not weakness. It is an ancient signal doing exactly what it was made to do. That signal has been carried far, farther in fact than any human hand has ever reached. There is a small craft built by people that has been traveling away from us for almost 50 years. It left Earth when many of us were children or not yet born, and it has simply kept going out past the planets, out past the edge of the sun's reach, into the true dark beyond. It carries no crew, it only listens and whispers back across the widening gap, its signals growing fainter each year, taking longer and longer to arrive. It has now gone so far that the nearest star ahead of it lies a journey of many years of light away, and it will not draw close to that star for tens of thousands of years, long after the craft itself has fallen silent. And yet, for all that distance, it is still ours. We still know roughly where it is. A faint thread of attention still connects us across the impossible space. Nothing we make is ever wholly let go. Even our farthest traveler is still, in some quiet way, being thought of, being waited for, being held in the mind of the people who sent it on. And it turns out this longing to keep one another in mind is so old it barely had a name. The word itself, loneliness, is younger than you might think. For most of the long history of the English language, it scarcely appeared at all. People wrote of being alone, of solitude, of grief, but the particular word we now reach for so easily was rare until only a couple of centuries ago, and the heavy aching sense we give it now is more recent still. For a long time, to be alone simply meant to be by oneself, with no sorrow attached. The shadow that the word carries today seems to have deepened as the world changed around us, as people moved into cities and away from the villages, where everyone was known as the old webs of family and place stretched thin. The feeling surely is ancient, but the language we use to name it is still finding its shape, still young in our mouths. There is something almost tender in that. The thing you feel tonight is so deeply human that we are even now still learning how to speak of it. Stay here a moment longer inside the body, because the heart has been listening to all of this too. Deep in the chest, that steady muscle has been keeping time since before you were born, never once asking for thanks. And it turns out the heart pays attention to how connected we feel. When researchers followed people over many years, they found that those who lived with long, unbroken loneliness tended to carry a slightly heavier burden in the body, blood pressure that ran a little higher, a cardiovascular system that worked a touch harder year after year. The way a small extra weight carried daily will tire even a strong arm in time. It is not sudden, and it is not a sentence. It is simply the quiet cost of feeling unsafe in the world for too long, the body bracing when it would rather rest. The remarkable thing is how directly the feeling reaches the flesh. A sense of belonging is not only pleasant, it is in the plainest sense protective. The heart beats easier among people it trusts. So if there is someone who makes your shoulders drop and your breath go slow, someone in whose company you simply feel held, know that the ease you feel with them is doing real and gentle work somewhere beneath your ribs, even now. And this longing to be held is not ours alone. It moves through far larger creatures than us. Out on the wide grasslands, elephants live in families that last a lifetime. They greet one another after time apart with rumbles and touching trunks. They mourn their dead, returning to the bones, turning them over with something that looks to anyone watching very much like grief. And when an elephant is separated from its herd, taken away or left behind, the distress can run deep and last for days. Keepers who care for orphaned young elephants describe animals that cannot settle, that call out into the night, that need the warmth of another body pressed close before they can finally sleep. So the caretakers stay. They lie beside them in the dark. The science here is gentle and clear. Elephants are built for one another, their minds shaped over ages of living in the close company of kin. To be alone is not natural for them, and they feel its absence as keenly as we feel ours. There is a strange comfort in knowing that the ache you sometimes carry is shared by creatures so much vaster than yourself. You are part of a long lineage of beings who were never meant to face the dark by themselves. And inside you, threaded through your own body, there is a quiet helper working to bring you back to that warmth. It begins at the base of the brain and wanders downward the longest of its kind, branching out to touch the heart, the lungs, the soft machinery of the gut. The vagus nerve, its name meaning wandering the same route as vagabond, the one who roams. And one of its great tasks is to calm you. When you feel safe, truly safe, in the presence of someone you trust, this nerve sends its quiet signal through the body, slowing the heart, softening the breath, telling every system that the danger has passed and it is all right to rest. A warm voice can do it, a gentle face, the simple knowledge that you are not facing things alone. This is part of why company soothes us in a way that goes beneath thought, beneath words, into the oldest wiring we have. The body keeps its own counsel about who is safe. And when it decides that you are among friends, it lets go of a tension it did not even tell you it was holding. Far from any warm hand or trusted face in the cold dark of the sea, there is a different kind of calling out. For decades now, listening stations beneath the ocean have picked up a song. It belongs to a single whale, and it sings at a frequency unlike any other whale we know. Most of its kind call out around a certain low pitch, and they answer one another across great distances. But this one sings higher at a tone the others do not seem to use. People came to call it the loneliest whale in the world, imagining it singing year after year into waters where no one replies. The truth is gentler and less certain than the legend. We do not actually know that it is lonely, or even that it is unanswered, and some scientists think other whales may hear it perfectly well. But the song is real, and it is unusual, and it has been traveling the dark water for a very long time. Whatever the truth, the image stays with us. A voice singing on at its own strange pitch, simply because singing is what it was made to do. Perhaps that is enough. Perhaps the song matters even before anyone answers it, and the deepest proof of how much we need one another shows itself at the very beginning of a life. A newborn human is the most helpless creature imaginable, unable to feed itself, to warm itself, to do anything at all but cry and reach. We have long known they need milk and warmth. But more than a century ago, in orphanages and hospital wards, caretakers learned something heartbreaking and important. Babies who were fed and kept clean and kept warm, but who were rarely held, who were left without touch and tenderness, did not thrive. Some failed to grow. Some faded despite every physical need being met. The missing thing was contact, the press of arms, the human warmth that says, "You are not alone here." Today we understand that touch in infancy shapes the developing brain itself, helping to set the systems that will one day calm fear and steady the heart. We are born already needing each other before we can name a single thing in the world. To be held is not a luxury laid over life. It is from the very first hour part of how a life learns to stay. Now lift your gaze from the cradle to the far reaches of space, where some lonely things are not gentle at all but astonishing in their density. When a great star comes to the end of its life, it can collapse inward upon itself, crushing down and down until what remains is almost beyond imagining. A neutron star, we call it, the dense heart of something that once blazed across the heavens. And it is so tightly packed that a single spoonful of its matter, a piece small enough to hold, would weigh as much as a mountain here on Earth. The whole mass of something more than our sun folded into a sphere you could drive across in minutes. It spins there in the dark, sometimes faster than the blades of a kitchen blender, sweeping beams of light across the void like a lighthouse no one built. It is solitary and strange, and almost unbearably dense, the leftover heart of a star that gave everything it had. There is a quiet poetry in that. Even in collapse, even at the very end, a star does not simply vanish. It leaves something behind, something that keeps turning, keeps shining, keeps marking time in a code we are only beginning to read. Endings out there are rarely the end. Back on Earth, in something far smaller than a star, loneliness leaves its own kind of trace, written quietly in the blood. When scientists draw blood from people living with long loneliness and look closely at what flows there, they find subtle changes. Markers of inflammation, the body's slow inner fire, tend to run a little higher. The same response the body uses to fight infection and heal wounds, stays faintly switched on, simmering low in the background in people who feel disconnected for long stretches of time. It is as though the body, sensing it is on its own, prepares for injury, that never comes bracing for a fight it must face without help. Over years, that low, constant readiness can wear at the tissues, the way a fire left burning slowly will eventually darken the wall behind it. The finding is sobering, but it carries a hidden gentleness too. It means connection is not only a feeling but a medicine, something the body can actually use. The warmth of being known reaches all the way down into the blood and tells that quiet fire it can rest now. You are not under siege. You can let the watchfires go cool. And just as our bodies share resources unseen, so too, it turns out, do the trees. Walk into an old forest and it looks like a gathering of separate beings, each tree standing alone, competing for light. But beneath your feet, hidden in the dark soil, there is a vast web. Fine threads of fungus weave through the ground, joining root to root, tree to tree, into a network that scientists sometimes call the Wood Wide Web. And through these threads, the trees share sugar, water, the chemical news of danger, passed quietly underground from one to another. A great old tree will feed its own seedlings through the soil. And remarkably, when one tree falls ill or loses its leaves, its neighbors can send nourishment its way, keeping it alive through the hard season. The forest, it seems, is less a crowd of strangers than a single slow community, holding its weak and sheltering its young. No tree stands truly alone. Beneath the still surface of the world, everything is reaching toward everything else, sharing what it has in a language older than words and far below our notice. That same deep need to be reached for lives, inside your own brain, in a way that is almost too tender to name. There is a peculiar pair of feelings the brain keeps close together. The sense of being watched and the sense of being unseen. You might think they would sit far apart, but the regions that handle how we are perceived by others lie near one another, woven into the parts of the brain that track where we stand in the eyes of the people around us. We are, all of us, exquisitely tuned to whether we are noticed. A held gaze can warm us or unsettle us. A room full of people who do not see us can feel colder than an empty one. This is not vanity. It is the deep social machinery of a creature who survived by belonging, who needed always to know its place in the group. So, when you long simply to be noticed, to have someone turn and truly look at you, that longing is not small or needy. It is one of the oldest hungers there is, written into the very folds of the mind, asking only the gentlest thing: to be seen, to be counted among the others. To know that your face to someone is a face worth turning toward. There is a quieter darkness than the spaces between stars, and it is one that people sometimes make for one another here on Earth. When a person is shut away in true isolation, kept apart from every other voice and face for days on end, something strange begins to happen to the way they hold time. With no one to mark the hours, no shared meals, no greetings, no faces passing in a hallway, the days lose their edges. Time stops flowing in a straight, clean line and begins to pool and blur. People held in long, solitary confinement often report that they can no longer tell how many days have passed, that the hours stretch and collapse, that the mind deprived of others begins to loosen its grip on the ordinary scaffolding of a binged day. It turns out that other people are not only company, they are how we keep time itself. We measure our lives against one another morning by morning. And without that gentle measuring, the clock inside us drifts. It is a sobering thing to know, but it carries a quiet truth worth keeping. The people around you, even the ones you barely speak to, are part of how you stay oriented in the world. They hold the hours steady so you do not have to. From the vast loneliness we impose, turn now to a far smaller creature, one whose need for the others is woven into its very survival. A honeybee is built for the crowd. Everything about her, the dance she does to share directions, the warmth she helps generate by huddling close in winter, the work she takes up among thousands of sisters, all of it assumes the hive. And when a single bee is separated from that hive, kept apart even with plenty of food and sugar to eat, she does not last as long as her sisters who remain together. The solitary bee, well fed but alone, simply fails to thrive. Her body, it seems, is not made to live as one. She is a piece of a larger creature, the colony, and apart from it, she is incomplete, in a way that food alone cannot mend. There is something humbling in so small a life carrying so clear a lesson. The bee reminds us, in her brief and busy way, that for some beings, togetherness is not comfort layered over survival. It is survival. And we, for all our size and cleverness, are perhaps closer to the bee in this than we like to think. Lift your eyes again, all the way up past the clouds to the star we know best of all. Our sun feels like the center of everything, steady and bright and ours. But among the stars, it is something of a loner. Many of the suns scattered across the night sky travel in pairs or in little families. 2 or 3 or more stars bound together, circling one another in a slow gravitational dance that has gone on for ages. Our sun has no such close companion. It drifts through the galaxy largely on its own, with no sibling star wheeling beside it, the nearest other sun lying years upon years of light away. And yet it does not feel solitary to us, because it is not truly alone. It carries with it a whole family of worlds, the planets, the moons, the drifting comets and stones, all held close by its quiet gravity, all turning faithfully around it. The sun is single, and the sun is surrounded, both at once. Perhaps that is a kind of comfort. You can be in some ways on your own, and still be at the warm center of a small and loyal world that turns because you are there. Come back down now, back into the body where loneliness leaves a fingerprint you can almost feel. Each morning as we wake, the body releases a pulse of cortisol, the hormone that rouses us and readies us for the day ahead. It is meant to be a clean wave, rising to greet the morning and then easing off. But in people who carry long loneliness, that morning surge tends to run higher, as though the body wakes, already braced, already expecting a day it must face without much help. It is the chemistry of a creature on guard. And here is the gentle part, the part worth holding as you lie here in the dark. That same system softens in the company of those we trust. A morning that begins with a familiar voice, a shared cup of something warm. The simple knowledge that someone is near asks less of the body than a morning faced alone. Your own waking tomorrow will be a little kinder if some part of you knows it is not facing the day by itself. Connection does not only warm the heart, it tunes the very hormones that decide how heavily or how lightly you rise. And the reach toward another does not belong to warm-blooded creatures alone. It appears even in the strangest and most solitary minds of the sea. The octopus is a creature built for a life apart. It lives mostly alone among the rocks and reefs, hunting in solitude, guarding its den, meeting others of its kind rarely and often warily. By every measure of its nature, it is a loner. And yet in aquariums and laboratories, something tender has been seen again and again. An octopus that has come to know a particular keeper, the one who feeds it, who visits each day, will reach toward that person. It will stretch an arm up out of the water to touch a familiar hand, will change its colors at the approach of a known face, will seem by every sign we can read to recognize and to welcome. A solitary animal, with a mind unlike ours, grown over a completely different branch of life, still reaches toward the warmth of a known presence. If even the octopus alone by nature learns the comfort of a familiar hand, then perhaps the longing to be known is not a flaw in any of us. Perhaps it is simply one of the oldest and truest things that living minds can feel. Bring your attention softly to your own skin, because it has been keeping a secret kind of sense all your life. Most of what your skin tells you is practical. This is hot, this is rough, this is sharp, pull away. But woven through the skin, especially the skin of your arms and back and the places a loved one might rest a hand, there is another kind of nerve, entirely. These ones do not care about danger or texture. They respond only to slow, gentle, warm touch, the speed of a caress, the unhurried stroke of someone who loves you. They send their signal not to the part of the brain that maps where you have been touched, but to the parts that handle feeling and belonging and calm. In other words, you have a system in your skin built specifically to register affection, to translate a tender hand into a wave of quiet well-being. It is one of the reasons a soft touch can undo a hard day. Your body came equipped from the start to receive love through the skin and carry it inward. So the comfort of being held is not imagined or merely sweet. It is a real signal traveling a dedicated road made for exactly this. You were built to be touched gently and to be soothed by it. From that intimate language of the skin lift, now to a message we sent outward into a silence so vast it may never send anything back. When that small craft left Earth and began its long journey into the dark, we gave it something to carry, a golden record etched with the sounds and images of our world. On it are greetings spoken in many of the languages of Earth, dozens of human voices saying hello, saying peace, saying we are here in tongues from every corner of the planet. There is music, there is the sound of rain, of a heartbeat of a mother speaking to her child. We sent it, knowing the chances of anyone ever finding it are almost beyond counting, that it may drift for billions of years and never be heard by another soul. And still we sent it. That is the part that stays with you. Faced with the largest loneliness imaginable, the silence between the stars, the human answer was not to stay quiet. It was to call out anyway. To say hello into the dark gently, and mean it for no reason but the hope of connection itself. There may be no lonelier message ever made, and there may be none braver. Come back now to something closer and quieter, to the way loneliness slips into the night and rearranges your sleep. Here is a curious finding. People who carry a good deal of loneliness usually fall asleep about as easily as anyone else. The trouble comes later. Through the night they wake more often, surfacing again and again from sleep, their rest more broken than that of people who feel securely connected. And the striking thing is that they are often not aware of why. The sleeping brain of a lonely person seems to stay a little more watchful, a little less willing to fully let go, as though some old part of it believes that to sleep deeply with no one to keep watch is not entirely safe. For most of our history that was true. To sleep alone and exposed was a risk, and the brain that woke easily was the brain that survived. So if your own nights have ever felt strangely shallow, if you have woken without knowing why, it may be that some ancient part of you was simply listening for the breathing of others. It is not a flaw. It is a body that remembers it was meant to rest among its own. That same memory of belonging runs through creatures who hunt the cold places of the world together. A wolf is almost nothing without its pack. It hunts as a pack raises its young, as a pack survives the long winters, by the warmth and cooperation of the pack. And when a wolf becomes separated, lost from the others, or driven out, it howls. We have all heard that sound, or imagined it, the long rising call that carries for miles through the dark, to a wolf alone. The howl is not a threat and not a song. Researchers who study them describe it plainly as searching. The lone wolf is calling out across the night, listening between its own cries for an answer, for the voice of one of its own to come back across the distance and say, "This way, we are here, come home." There is no grief in nature quite so recognizable to us as that. A voice in the dark calling, hoping to be answered. We do the same in our own way, every time we reach for the phone late at night, every time we send a message into the quiet, just to feel less alone. The howl is very old, and it lives in us too. And it turns out this tendency, the way each of us feels the pull of loneliness, is partly written into us before we are even born. When scientists study large families and great numbers of twins, they can begin to tease apart how much of a trait comes from how we are raised and how much is woven into our inheritance. And loneliness, the tendency to feel it more keenly or less, appears to be partly heritable. Not the circumstance of being alone, but the depth of the ache itself. how sharply a given person registers the absence of connection seems shaped in some measure by the genes passed down through the generations. Some of us are simply tuned to feel the lack more deeply, the way some are tuned to feel cold or hunger sooner than others. This is not a sentence and not a burden. It is, in a way, a kind of belonging all its own. The capacity to feel lonely was handed to you gently by everyone who came before a long line of people who needed each other and survived because they did. Your longing for closeness is quite literally an inheritance. You come from people who could not bear to be apart. That is why you cannot either. Far from any howling pack in the high country, where the air goes thin and golden in autumn, there grows a kind of tree that has quietly solved the problem of being alone. You can walk for a long while through a grove of aspens, those slender, pale trunks with their leaves that tremble at the smallest breath of wind, and believe you are among thousands of separate trees. But beneath the ground, the truth is stranger and lovelier. Many of those trees are not individuals at all. They are sprouts rising from a single shared root system, one enormous organism spreading out beneath the soil, sending up trunk after trunk across acres of mountainside. One of the largest known living things on Earth is exactly this, a single aspen whose thousands of trunks are all one being, all one ancient root, some of them tens of thousands of years old in their hidden connected heart. What looks like a crowd is one life. What looks like solitude, each tree standing apart in the wind, is in truth a deep and unbroken togetherness, sharing everything beneath the surface. We see this in the world more often than we know. The separateness is on the top where the eye falls. The connection is underneath, quiet and old, holding everything as one. That same watchfulness the aspen never needs is exactly what loneliness builds quietly inside the human mind. When a person carries loneliness for a long time, the brain begins to change how it pays attention to the world. It grows more vigilant, more quick to scan for threat, more ready to read a face as cold or a remark as a slight. It is not that lonely people are unkind or suspicious by nature. It is that the brain, sensing it stands without allies, shifts into a quiet state of self-protection, watching the social world the way a person alone in an unfamiliar place watches the street. The hard part is that this very watchfulness can push others away and so deepen the loneliness that made it a loop that turns slowly on itself. But simply knowing this can loosen its grip. If you have ever felt yourself bracing in a room full of people reading rejection into a glance that meant nothing, it may not be the truth of the room at all. It may only be an old guardedness trying to keep you safe. And guardedness, once you can see it, can soften. The room is often warmer than the watching mind believes. From the watchful mind, rise into the dark autumn sky, where countless small travelers are calling out to keep from losing one another. Many birds make their great migrations by night, flying through the dark for hours, even days, navigating by the stars and the pull of the earth itself. And as they fly, they call. Soft contact notes, little chirps and cheeps passed back and forth through the blackness, far too quiet to be songs of display. These are the calls of keeping together. Each note says in effect, "Here I am. Where are you? Stay close." Through the long night flight, the flock holds itself together by voice alone, a constant, gentle murmur threading through the dark so that no single bird drifts off and is lost. If you stand outside on a clear autumn night and listen closely, you can sometimes hear them passing far overhead, those faint cries falling from the sky. It is one of the tenderest sounds in nature. A whole community moving through the dark, unable to see one another, staying together with nothing but the steady reassurance of each other's voices. We do that too, you know. Late at night across great distances we call softly to one another, just to keep from drifting apart. Come back now, all the way down to something as simple as one hand reaching for another in a quiet room. Researchers once studied what happens in the brain when a person expects something painful, a small unpleasant shock, while lying still. They watched the alarm centers light up in anticipation of the hurt. Then they let the person hold the hand of someone they loved, and they watched again. The threat response in the brain grew quieter. The presence of a trusted hand simply held, dulled the brain's reaction to the coming pain. And the deeper the bond between the two people, the greater the calming. Not a medicine, not a word of comfort, only a hand, only the warm fact of another person near. The body reads that contact as safety, and safety changes how much it fears. So the next time you reach for someone's hand, without thinking, in a waiting room in the dark, in a moment of fear, know that something real is passing between you. You are lending them through your palm a little of your own steadiness, and they are doing the same for you. And in the strangest depths of the ocean, there is a creature that has taken the longing to never be alone to its furthest possible end. Far down, where the sunlight never reaches in the cold black of the deep sea, lives the anglerfish, with her lantern of light dangling before her in the dark. Down there in all that emptiness, finding a mate is a rare and precious thing. And so in some species, evolution found an astonishing answer. When a tiny male finally finds a female in the vast dark, he bites onto her and does not let go. Over time, his body fuses to hers. Their tissues join, their blood vessels merge until he becomes a permanent part of her, drawing nourishment from her body, never again to swim alone. He gives up his separate self entirely, dissolving into a shared life. It is one of the most extreme bonds in all of nature, strange and a little startling and somehow tender all at once. In a world too dark and too wide to risk ever losing one another again, two creatures simply become one. We would never go so far. But the impulse beneath it, the longing to close the distance for good, to never again drift apart in the dark that we understand completely. Stay close to the mind a moment longer, because loneliness does something subtle to the way we read the faces around us. Imagine a face that is simply neutral, neither smiling nor frowning, just resting in its ordinary stillness, the way most faces do most of the time. To a person who feels securely connected, that face reads as fine, unremarkable, perhaps even kind. But to a person carrying loneliness, the very same face is more likely to be read as cool or disapproving or unfriendly. Loneliness tilts the lens through which we see others, nudging us to expect rejection even where none is offered. It is not a failing of character. It is that same old self-protection working quietly behind the eyes, bracing for a coldness it has learned to anticipate. And once you understand it, it becomes a thing you can gently set down. The faces in the room are mostly just faces, lost in their own thoughts, carrying their own private worlds. The disapproval we sometimes read into them is so often not there at all. Most people, if you could see inside them, are hoping to be liked exactly as much as you are. From the small drama of a single face drift outward to the oldest light, there is a glow left over from a time when nothing in all the universe was alone. Everywhere you point, a sensitive enough instrument in the night sky, in every direction, there is a faint hum of light. We call it the cosmic microwave background, and it is the afterglow of the universe's beginning, the cooled remnant of the fire that filled everything when the cosmos was young. And here is the part that stops the breath. In that early time, everything that now exists, every star and stone and drop of water, every atom in your body, was pressed together in a single, unimaginably dense and brilliant whole. There was no distance yet. Nothing was separate from anything. Everything touched everything. The vast distances we know now, the lonely gulfs between the stars, all of that came later as the universe cooled and spread and grew. So in the deepest sense, every separate thing in existence was once joined to every other. The atoms in your hand and the atoms in a distant star share a single origin, a moment when all of it was one. We are not strangers to the universe. We are pieces of something that was once entirely together. And that faint light is still arriving, even now, a quiet reminder of the togetherness from which we all came. Come back to Earth, to a small creature of the grasslands that loves, with a constancy that has taught us much about our own hearts. The prairie vole is a modest little rodent, not much to look at, scurrying through the meadows of the open country. But it does something rare among mammals. It mates for life. A pair of prairie voles forms a lasting bond, building a nest together, raising their young together, staying side by side, season after season. And when scientists study their brains, they find the chemistry of that devotion written clearly there, in the very hormones that bind one vole to its partner. When a vole loses its mate, that chemistry changes. The bonded survivor shows signs of something that looks a great deal like grief, a withdrawal, a heaviness, a difference deep in the brain itself. From this small, faithful animal, we have learned much of what we know about how love takes hold in the mind, how attachment becomes a thing the body cannot easily let go of. Love is not only poetry, it is also chemistry, real and measurable, settling into the brain and making a home there. And grief, the ache of losing it, is simply love with nowhere left to go. Bring it home now, into your own arms, to something you can do tonight or tomorrow that the body recognizes at once. A hug held just a little longer than usual does something quiet and real inside you. When an embrace lasts around 20 seconds, long enough that you actually settle into it, the body releases a wave of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, the same chemical that flows between a mother and her newborn, between people who love and trust each other. Your heart rate eases, the stress hormones recede. A feeling of calm and closeness spreads through you all from the simple pressure of another body, held against your own for a handful of unhurried seconds. We so often hug quickly, a brief, polite squeeze and away. But the longer, slower embrace, the one that lingers, is where the real medicine lies. So the next time someone you love wraps their arms around you, try staying there a breath or two longer than feels usual. Let the body do what it knows how to do. That warmth moving through you is not just feeling. It is chemistry, ancient and kind, reminding you that you are safe and held and not alone. From the closeness of an embraced drift to a far emptier place, a road that has earned a lonely name for a reason. There is a stretch of highway in the American West that people came to call the loneliest road in the country. It runs for hours, through high desert, mile after mile of sagebrush and pale earth and enormous sky, with long gaps between the small towns, sometimes nothing at all for great distances, but the road unspooling toward the horizon. A driver can travel a long while and pass scarcely another car, scarcely a building, scarcely a sign that anyone else exists in all that openness. And yet people who have driven it often speak of it not with dread but with a strange peace. There is a particular quiet that comes from being truly small beneath a vast sky, from having the world spread out, empty and beautiful around you. Solitude out there is not the same as loneliness. Some of us go looking for exactly that openness, that great breathing emptiness to clear the mind and feel the size of things. The road reminds us of something gentle. To be alone by choice beneath an enormous sky can be one of the most peaceful feelings a person ever knows. From the wide and peaceful emptiness of that desert road, come back to a small laboratory cage, where a humble creature once revealed something quietly moving about the pull we feel toward one another. Researchers placed a rat in an enclosure, and beside it, trapped inside a small clear tube, another rat, distressed and unable to get free. The first rat did not have to do anything. It could have ignored its trapped companion entirely. But again and again, the free rats worked at the trap until they learned how to open it and release the other. And in a striking version of the experiment, when the rats were given a choice between freeing their trapped companion and helping themselves to a pile of chocolate, a favorite treat, many of them freed their fellow first and then shared the chocolate once both were free. A rat choosing the rescue of another over its own reward. We sometimes imagine that kindness is a thin and fragile thing, a polish we lay over a selfish nature. But here it is in a creature far simpler than us, the impulse to ease another's suffering, to not leave a fellow alone in distress. Compassion, it seems, runs deeper and older in the living world than we tend to believe. The urge to free one another is not learned, it is built in. Stay with that warmth and notice how much it matters, not only that we connect, But how? Think of the difference between reading a kind message from someone you love and actually hearing their voice. They might say the very same words, but the body responds to them quite differently. When researchers compared the two, they found that hearing a loved one's voice, even just over the phone, calmed the body in ways that a text message did not. The voice lowered stress hormones and released more of the soothing oxytocin, while the written words, for all their kindness, left the body's chemistry largely unmoved. Something in the warmth and rise and fall of a real voice reaches us in a way that letters on a screen cannot. We are built, after all, for the spoken word, for the sound of one another, long before we ever learned to write. So on a hard night, if you are choosing between a text and a call, know that your body has a preference, and it is old and clear. It wants the voice. It wants to actually hear that you are loved. A few spoken words can do what 100 typed ones cannot. From the intimacy of a voice drift to the loneliest spaces that exist, the great voids between the galaxies, where matter itself waits ages for company. We picture space as empty, but between the galaxies lies an emptiness deeper than almost anywhere else. Vast regions where matter is so thinly scattered that it makes our best laboratory vacuums look crowded by comparison. Out there, a single particle can drift through the dark for an unimaginably long time, millions of years before it ever drifts close enough to meet another. There is no sound, no light to speak of, only the slow, patient travel of lonely specks across distances the mind cannot hold. And yet even this is not truly empty, not truly without connection. Those scattered particles still feel the faint pull of distant gravity, still belong to the slow, grand structure of the cosmos, still drift in patterns shaped by everything around them. Even in the emptiest place in all of existence, nothing is entirely cut off. There is always some thread, however faint, some pull that says, you are still part of this. If the loneliest reaches of the universe are still held within the whole, then surely on this crowded and living world so are you. Come back gently to Earth, to a tender truth about the later years of a human life. As people grow older, loneliness can become harder to escape. Friends and partners pass away. The world that once came easily, full of work and family and daily errands, can grow quieter. And researchers have found that this loneliness in older age is not only sad but carries real weight for the mind. Older adults who are persistently lonely face a higher risk of decline in memory and thinking over time. The brain, it seems like a muscle, stays sharper when it is used in the company of others, kept lively by conversation, by connection, by the gentle exercise of being known and engaging with other minds. This is sobering, but it points towards something hopeful and within reach. A phone call to an aging parent or grandparent is not only kind, it is in the most literal way good for their mind, keeping the lights on in rooms that might otherwise grow dim. If there is someone older in your life who lives much alone, your voice may be doing more for them than you will ever fully see. Connection keeps the mind alight, and the value of being remembered, of being recognized and greeted, is something even the birds outside your window seem to understand. Crows are far cleverer than we once gave them credit for. Among their many remarkable gifts is this: they remember human faces, and they remember them for years. A crow that has been treated badly by a particular person will recognize that face long afterward and scold it, even pass its wariness along to other crows who never met the offender. But the other side is just as true and far sweeter. A crow that has been fed kindly, treated gently, will come to recognize that face too and greet it, and sometimes even bring small gifts, a bright bead, a bit of shiny glass, left where the kind human will find them. They keep accounts of who has been good to them, and they answer kindness with something that looks remarkably like friendship. To be remembered, to be recognized across time as someone who was good, turns out to matter even in the mind of a bird. We all want, in the end, the same simple thing: to be known and to be glad to be seen. Return for a moment to the very beginning of a human life, to the smallest among us who tell us what they need long before they have any words for it. A baby cannot say what is wrong. And yet from very early on, a baby's cries are not all the same. Researchers and attentive parents alike have noticed that an infant cries differently, depending on what it lacks. There is one cry for hunger, another for pain, another for tiredness, and there is a particular cry for being alone, for the simple absence of a held and comforting presence. Even at just a few months old, before language, before memory as we know it, a baby distinguishes between the discomfort of the body and the discomfort of being left socially alone, and it protests the loneliness in its own distinct voice. We come into the world already knowing the difference between needing food and needing one another. The longing for company is not something we learn as we grow. It arrives with us present from the first weeks of life, woven in before we can name a single thing. To be human is to need each other, and we begin needing it before we even know what a person is. From the dawn of one small life, drift back to the dawn of everything, to a time when the whole universe was too crowded for light itself to move. In the first long ages after the universe began, everything was packed so tightly and was so blazingly hot that light could not travel freely at all. Photons, the very particles of light, could not fly in a straight line because the universe was a dense fog of matter, and light was scattered this way and that. The instant it tried to move, trapped, bouncing endlessly, unable to go anywhere. For hundreds of thousands of years the cosmos glowed, but could not shine a brightness with nowhere to travel. And then slowly, as everything cooled and spread, the fog cleared, and in a single great moment across all of space, light was suddenly free to fly. That first liberated light is the very glow we still detect today, the oldest light in existence. There is something to hold in that. Even light, the swiftest and freest thing we know, once spent ages unable to find its way, hemmed in on every side. And then the universe gave it room, and it flew. Sometimes the way forward is simply a matter of waiting for the crowding to ease until at last there is space to move again. Come back into the human heart, to a peculiar cruelty and gift of the way we are made. Most physical pain, once it is gone, is hard to truly summon back. You may remember that you broke your arm, that it hurt terribly, but you cannot make the arm hurt again just by recalling it. Social pain is different. The sting of an old humiliation, the ache of a long-ago rejection, the moment someone turned away from you years past. These can be refelt with startling freshness, simply by remembering them. The mind, replaying a social wound, can bring back the heat of it, almost as if it were happening now. This is part of why heartbreak lingers, why an unkindness from childhood can still tighten the chest decades later. The brain holds our social wounds close, refusing to let them fully fade. It sounds like a burden, and sometimes it is, but it is also a sign of how deeply we are built to care about our bonds with others, how seriously the mind takes the matter of belonging. We remember the hurt so vividly, only because connection matters so very much. The same depth that lets a wound linger is the depth that lets love last. From the long memory of pain, rise to the bright water where some of the ocean's cleverest creatures call to one another by name. Dolphins live rich social lives, swimming in groups, cooperating, playing, staying together across years. And each dolphin, early in life, develops its own signature whistle, a unique pattern of sound that belongs to it alone, that the others learn to recognize. In effect, each dolphin has a name. They use these whistles to call to one another across the water, and a dolphin will answer to its own signature, the way you turn at the sound of your name in a crowd. They will even call the name of a companion who has wandered off, as if to say, "Where are you? Come back." Among all the creatures of the sea, this naming of one another is rare and precious, a sign of just how much they hold one another in mind. To have a name is to be singled out from all the world as someone, a particular someone known and called for. The dolphins remind us how old and how deep that need runs. To be more than one of many, to be a name that another voice will call across the distance. And here gently is something for you, a small kindness the world keeps secret from most of us. People tend to believe that strangers do not want to talk to them. We imagine that the person beside us on the bus, in the waiting room, in the line for coffee, would rather be left alone, that reaching out would be unwelcome or awkward. So we stay, silent, eyes down, and the moment passes. But researchers have studied this again and again, and they keep finding the same surprising thing. We badly underestimate how much strangers would enjoy a conversation with us, and how much we ourselves would enjoy it too. People who are gently nudged into talking with a stranger come away happier than they expected, and so it turns out does the stranger. The wall of silence we keep between ourselves and others is built almost entirely of a shared mistaken belief. Each of us assuming the other would rather not. So tomorrow, if some small chance arises to say a kind word to someone you do not know, you might find that the warmth you offer is met more readily than you ever imagined. Most people are quietly hoping someone will reach out first. It might as well be you. Picture for a moment a lighthouse keeper alone on a rocky shore 100 years ago, with the sea for a neighbor and the wind for company. The keepers of old lighthouses kept logbooks, careful records of their days. And reading them now, we find page after page of weather noted, of the height of the waves of ships passing on the horizon. But scattered through the practical entries is something more human, the keepers recording almost in passing the rare arrival of another person, a supply boat, a visitor, the voice of someone come to break the long solitude. In lives spent largely alone, the simple fact of another human voice was worth writing down, worth remembering, a small, bright event in a sea of quiet days. Those logbooks meant to track the work of the light became also quiet records of loneliness and of its tender easing. We do not often think of how much an ordinary conversation can mean until we imagine a life with almost none of them. The keeper alone on his rock reminds us that the everyday voices around us, the small exchanges we barely notice, are a kind of quiet riches. To be among others, even in passing, is a gift the lonely understand best of all. From the keeper's solitude, drift inward down into the body, to a hidden world that feels our loneliness alongside us. Inside each of us lives a vast community of tiny organisms, trillions of bacteria, dwelling mostly in the gut, so numerous and so busy that scientists speak of them almost as an organ in their own right. They help us digest our food, they shape our immune systems, and remarkably, they seem to be in conversation with our moods. And here is the quiet surprise. In people who endure long stretches of isolation, the makeup of this inner community shifts and changes. The loneliness reaches even there, down into that hidden ecosystem, altering the balance of life within us. The connection between our social world and our inner world runs deeper than we ever imagined, all the way down to the smallest creatures we carry. We are never truly alone, not even in the most literal sense, for we are, each of us, a walking community, home to countless lives that rise and fall with our own well-being. When you tend to your own happiness, you tend to a whole small world that lives because you do. From that inner multitude rise into the autumn sky, where larger travelers have learned to share the very labor of flight. When geese migrate, they fly in that familiar shape, the long trailing V cutting across the sky. It looks like simple formation, but it is something kinder than that. As each goose flaps its wings, it creates a little lift in the air just behind and beside it, and the goose that follows rides on that gift of easier air, spending less of its own strength. They take turns at the front, where the work is hardest and the wind unbroken, falling back to rest when they tire, while another moves up to lead. No single goose carries the whole burden of the wind alone. They share it, rotating through the hard place and the easy place, so that together they can fly far further than any one of them could manage by itself. And when one goose falls ill or wounded and must land, others will sometimes drop out of the sky to stay with it until it can fly again, or until the end. The flock teaches a quiet truth. We were never meant to face the headwind alone. We are meant to take turns to lift one another, to share the hard front of the wind among us all. From the kindness of the flock, turn to something more unsettling, the way loneliness can quietly move between people like weather. You might think loneliness would be a purely private thing sealed within one heart. But researchers tracing the connections between people over many years found something stranger. Loneliness seems to spread through social networks, moving from person to person, almost the way a mood or even a contagion might. When someone becomes lonely, the people closest to them grow somewhat more likely to feel lonely too, and it can ripple outward friend to friend before it fades. A lonely person often unintentionally may withdraw or grow guarded, and those around them feel the cooling and pull back in turn. It sounds disheartening, but turn it over, and the other side shines. If loneliness can spread, so can its opposite. Warmth is contagious too. A single act of reaching out of genuine kindness can ripple outward through a web of people you will never trace, lifting hearts you will never meet. You are part of that web right now. The warmth you carry does not stay with you. It travels. From the invisible web that joins us, lift your eyes one last time tonight to the great dark, where even the galaxies are drifting toward one another. We often speak of the universe as endlessly spreading apart, everything rushing away from everything else, growing lonelier with time. And on the largest scale, that is true. But it is not the whole story. Our own galaxy has a great neighbor, the nearest large galaxy to our own, an immense spiral of hundreds of billions of stars. And it is not fleeing from us. It is drawing closer, falling slowly toward us across the dark, pulled by the patient hand of gravity. In a far distant age, long beyond any life, we can picture the two great galaxies will meet and slowly merge their stars, mingling into one. Even in a universe that spreads apart, some things are quietly moving toward each other, closing the vast distance over ages, drawn together by a force that never tires. It is good to remember, on a lonely night, that not everything in the cosmos is drifting away. Somewhere out there, two galaxies are falling gently toward an embrace, and they have been patiently all along. Come back to the smallest and most fragile among us, to the babies born too soon, and to a discovery that changed how we care for them. A premature baby born weeks or months early is so small and so delicate that it must live for a time in an incubator, a warm, clear box that does the work the womb was not yet finished doing. For a long while, the thinking was to disturb these tiny patients as little as possible, to let them rest untouched. But then researchers tried something gentle. They had nurses and parents simply touch these babies, soft, careful strokes along the back and limbs a little each day. And the babies who were touched grew faster. They gained weight more quickly, their bodies steadied, they grew stronger, and went home sooner than the babies left untouched. The simple human contact, skin against skin, did what warmth and nourishment alone could not. We now know this so well, that holding a premature baby against a parent's bare chest has a name and a place in medicine. Touch is not a comfort laid over the real work of healing. For the smallest among us, touch is the medicine. We come into the world needing to be held so deeply that for some, being held is the very thing that lets them stay. From our own fragile young turn to our nearest cousins in the living world, who comfort one another in a way that needs no translation. Chimpanzees live in close communities, and like any community, theirs has its quarrels, its squabbles, and fights and flares of temper. But what happens after a conflict is the tender part. Researchers watching chimpanzees noticed that after a fight, a bystander will often go to the one who lost, the one left shaken and distressed, and offer comfort, an embrace, a gentle touch, a grooming of the fur, a sitting close. They console one another, reaching out to soothe a fellow's distress with the warmth of contact, much as we might put an arm around a friend who is hurting. This consolation, this reaching toward another's pain with tenderness, is something we once thought belonged to humans alone, but it lives in our cousins too plain to see. The impulse to comfort, To not leave another alone in their hurt is older than our kind. It was there, in the shared ancestors, we and the chimpanzees both came from long ago. To reach out to someone in pain is one of the most ancient and most human things we do, and it was human in a way even before we were. Stay near that feeling of being comforted and notice how deeply the mind delights in simply being understood. There is a particular warmth that comes over us when someone truly gets it, when we share something we feel and another person understands, really understands, and lets us know that they do. Researchers have looked at what happens in the brain in that moment, and they found that feeling understood lights up the same reward centers that respond to other good things, the warm circuits of pleasure and connection. To be understood registers in the brain almost like receiving a gift, and the opposite, feeling misunderstood, dismissed, unheard, registers as a kind of small loss. This is why a friend who simply listens, who reflects back that they have heard you, can lift a weight you did not know you carried. You were not looking for advice or solutions. You were looking to be understood, and the brain treats that understanding as one of its true rewards. So when someone listens to you tonight or tomorrow, and you feel that quiet warmth of being known that is real, your brain is receiving something it deeply values. To be understood is one of the oldest gifts one person can give another. From the warmth of being understood, drift to one of the coldest and most isolated places a person can live, at the bottom of the world. The scientists who winter over at the research stations of Antarctica face a particular kind of solitude. Through the long polar winter, no planes can come or go. The sun does not rise for months. And there is a moment every year that they speak of with a quiet wait, the moment the last plane leaves before the winter closes in. They stand and watch it lift off and shrink into the sky, knowing it is the final link to the wider world, and that for many months now, there will be no one but the small group of them alone together, in the dark and the cold and the endless white. They describe a particular ache in that moment, the door of the world swinging shut. And yet they also speak of how close that small group becomes, how the shared isolation binds them into something like a family, how they come to rely on one another in a way few of us ever know. Even at the bottom of the frozen world, in the deepest isolation our planet offers, people find their belonging in each other. When the wider world falls away, the few who remain become everything. And somehow, again and again, that proves to be enough. From the human community huddled against the cold turn to the quiet world of plants who, it seems, can feel the presence or absence of their neighbors. We tend to think of plants as solitary things, each one rooted in its own patch of soil, indifferent to the rest. But plants are more aware of one another than they look. A plant grown all alone with no neighbors near often grows differently than one grown in the company of others, sensing through subtle cues, through light and chemistry, and the touch of nearby roots. Whether it stands in a crowd or in isolation, some grow taller in company, reaching to compete for light. Some share warning signals through the air when a neighbor is attacked by insects, so the others can ready their defenses. Even rooted in place, unable to move or call out, plants live in a kind of community, registering who is near and shaping their own growth in response. Nothing alive, it seems, is truly indifferent to the presence of others. From the trees to the grasses to the smallest seedling, the living world is built to notice when it is not alone. The longing for company in some quiet form may run through all of life, down to the green and rooted things that share this world with us. As you lie here drifting towards sleep, consider what your own mind will quietly get up to once you have let go. The sleeping brain is far from idle. Through the night as you rest, it sorts through the day, sifting memories, deciding what to keep and what to let fade. And among the things it works over in the dark are your encounters with other people. The brain replays social interactions during sleep, turning over the day's conversations and glances and exchanges, sorting through who felt safe and who felt uncertain, strengthening the bonds that matter, and filing away what it has learned about the people in your life. It is doing, in the quiet of the night, a kind of gentle social bookkeeping, helping you wake knowing a little better where you stand among others. So even your sleep is shaped by connection. Even your rest is busy tending the threads that join you to the people you love. Tonight, as you drift off, some patient part of your mind will be holding the faces of those who are dear to you, keeping them close, weaving them more deeply into who you are. You carry the people you love into sleep with you every single night, whether you know it or not. From the quiet work of the sleeping mind, turn to a gentle cousin of ours who would rather share a meal with a stranger than eat alone. Bonobos are among our closest living relatives, and they are known for their remarkable gentleness, settling tensions with affection and warmth, where other apes might use force. Researchers studying them found something that surprised them. A bonobo, given a pile of food, will sometimes choose to share it with a stranger, a bonobo it has never met, even when it could simply keep the food for itself. And it seems to do this not for any reward, but for the chance at company, for the simple pleasure of a new connection. The bonobo would rather have someone to share with than have more for itself alone. There is something deeply moving in that, in a creature so close to us choosing connection over plenty, choosing the warmth of company over the security of hoarding. We sometimes imagine that nature is all competition, every creature for itself. But here is one of our nearest kin, reaching across to a stranger, offering food for nothing more than the gift of not being alone. The desire for company can outweigh even the desire for more. That too we carry in our blood. From our gentle cousins, drift inward to the smallest unit of your own thinking, which has never once worked in solitude. A single neuron, one nerve cell in your brain, is a tiny thing far too small to see. And on its own it can do almost nothing. Its whole purpose, its entire nature, is connection. A single neuron can reach out to thousands of others, branching and linking through delicate junctions, passing along its small signal in a vast conversation of cells. There are billions of neurons in your brain, and the wonder of them is not in any one alone, but in the unimaginable web they form. Together, trillions of connections, firing and falling silent, weaving the whole of your thought, your memory, your very sense of being you. Not one neuron thinks. Thinking happens only between them, in the reaching, in the connection. Your entire mind, everything you are, exists only because countless tiny cells refuse to work in isolation. You are at the deepest level made of connection. The self that feels lonely is itself built entirely from things joined to other things. To be you at all is already to be a community. Aloneness for a neuron would be the same as nothingness. And so it is in a way for us. From the web within rise to the gentle synchrony between two people who have loved each other a long while. There is a quiet magic that can settle over couples who have been together for many years. When two people who share a deep bond sit close, resting quietly together, their bodies can begin to fall into rhythm. Researchers have measured it. The heart rate of one drifts toward the heart rate of the other. Their breathing can synchronize. Even at times, the patterns of their hearts begin to beat in a kind of harmony, two separate bodies easing into a shared and gentle tempo, without either of them trying or even knowing. Love lived over years writes itself into the body so deeply that two hearts can learn to keep time together. There is no clearer image of what connection truly is. Two lives grown so close that the very rhythm of being alive begins to align. To love someone for a long time is to slowly become, in the most literal way, attuned to them, your body learning the music of theirs. Somewhere tonight, two people who have loved each other for decades are sitting quietly side by side, their hearts beating softly, slowly, almost as one. From two hearts beating as one, lift your gaze to a small bright point crossing the night sky, where a handful of people become each other's entire world. High above the Earth, the space station circles the planet, and aboard it lives a small crew, only a few people at a time, sealed together in that floating home for months on end. They cannot step outside for a walk. They cannot visit anyone. For the length of their stay, the few souls aboard that station are quite simply each other's whole world. the only other humans within reach for hundreds of miles in any direction. They eat together, work together, watch the earth turn blue and silent beneath them through the windows, and lean on one another in a closeness few of us will ever know. Astronauts speak of the deep bonds that form up there, the way the small crew becomes a kind of family bound by their shared and astonishing solitude. So far from everyone, they have only each other, and that, it turns out, is precisely enough. We do not need many people to feel that we belong. Sometimes we need only a few, close and true, to make even the vast and silent edge of space feel something like home. Notice the temperature of the room around you, the warmth of the blanket, because loneliness and cold are tangled together more closely than you might think. The body, it turns out, does not keep its feelings entirely separate from its sense of temperature. When people are made to feel left out or socially alone, they tend to perceive a room as colder, to actually feel chillier than people who feel warmly connected. And the reverse is true as well. Holding something warm, a cup of tea, a heated mug between the palms, can make a person feel a little more trusting, a little more open and connected to others. Somewhere deep in us, the warmth of company and the warmth of the body are spoken in the same old language, so closely linked that one can stand in for the other. This is why a hot drink soothes a lonely evening, why we speak of a warm welcome and a cold shoulder without ever thinking why. Tonight, as you feel the gentle warmth gathering around you under the covers, some quiet part of you may read it as more than heat. It may read it as safety, as company, as the old comfort of not being out in the cold alone. Let it. The warmth you feel is real, and so is the comfort it brings. From the warmth we share, turn to a strange little creature that has taken cooperation almost to the point of becoming one body. Beneath the dry earth of East Africa live the naked mole rats, small and wrinkled and nearly blind, dwelling in vast underground colonies. And they are unlike almost any other mammal. Their colonies work less like a group of individuals and more like a single living thing. They share the labor completely, some digging tunnels, some tending the young, some guarding, all working for the whole rather than themselves. A few will even use their own bodies to plug the tunnels against intruders, sacrificing for the colony without hesitation. They huddle together for warmth, they share food, they live and die for the group in a way that blurs the very line between one creature and many. Scientists call this rare way of living eusocial, the same word we use for bees and ants, almost never for mammals. Watching them, it becomes hard to say where one mole rat ends and the colony begins. They have answered the loneliness of the underground dark by becoming very nearly a single shared body. It is an extreme and not our way, but it whispers the same truth we keep finding everywhere. Life, again and again, chooses togetherness as its answer to the dark. From the crowded burrow, lift your eyes to the wide and starry sky, to a feeling that has the power to make all our loneliness grow small. There is a particular feeling that comes over us when we stand beneath a vast night sky, or before a great mountain, or anywhere the world reveals its enormous scale. We call it awe, and it does something gentle and strange to the self. In that moment of feeling small before something immense, our private worries seem to shrink, our loneliness loosens its grip, and we feel ourselves dissolve a little into the great whole of things. Researchers have found that experiences of awe make people feel more connected, more generous, more bound to something larger than themselves, and less trapped in the small, lonely room of the single self. It seems a paradox that feeling tiny beneath the stars should make us feel less alone, not more. But that is exactly what happens. To stand humbled before the vastness is to remember that you are part of it, woven into something far greater than your own small life. This is part of why we drift toward the stars on a quiet night like this one. Not to feel small and afraid, but to feel small and held a single thread in an immense and ancient weaving. From the great sky overhead, drift down to the delicate travelers who gather by the thousands to survive the cold together. The monarch butterflies make one of the most astonishing journeys in all of nature, flying thousands of miles across a continent to spend the winter in a few small groves of trees. And when they arrive, they do not scatter. They gather. They cluster together on the branches by the thousands upon thousands, so densely that they bend the boughs, coating the trees in a living blanket of folded wings. Pressed together this way, they share warmth, they shelter from the cold. They survive the winter as a single, vast and quiet multitude that no one of them could survive alone. From a distance, the trees look as though they are draped in autumn leaves, but the leaves are breathing alive, a great, soft congregation of fragile creatures, keeping one another warm through the long, cold months. Even the most delicate beings in the world, light as a whisper, easily lost, know to come together against the cold. They survive the winter by huddling close. So, in our own ways do we, drawing near to one another, when the dark and the cold come sharing warmth, outlasting the long nights together that none of us could outlast alone. From the warmth of those gathered wings, turn to one of the most tender powers we carry, the way a single familiar smell can bring someone back to us. Of all our senses, smell reaches the oldest and deepest parts of the brain, the parts tangled up with memory and feeling, bypassing the slow machinery of thought entirely. And so a familiar scent can do something almost no photograph can. The smell of a loved one's sweater, a perfume, the particular scent of a grandmother's kitchen, can summon that person back to us with a vividness that catches the breath, can fill a room with the felt presence of someone far away or long gone. A picture shows us a face, but a scent seems to bring the whole person the very feeling of them being near. This is why people keep an unwashed shirt of someone they miss, why a stray familiar smell on a stranger can stop us in the street, suddenly close to tears. The people we love leave traces in the world, in the air, in the things they touched, and our oldest sense holds the key to them. No one we have truly loved is ever entirely gone, not while a single scent can still call them back to us, warm and present, as if they had only just stepped from the room. Walk back into the forest, where the trees keep a kind of loyalty toward one another that we are only beginning to understand. Sometimes deep in an old forest, you can find the stump of a tree that was cut down long ago and discover that it is still alive. Not growing, not leafing, but living, the wood still moist, the bark still holding, kept alive year after year by the trees around it. Through their joined roots beneath the soil, the neighboring trees send sugar and water to the old stump, sustaining what is left of it for decades long, after it can do anything for them in return. The forest does not abandon its fallen. It keeps the old stump company, feeds it, holds it among the living, asking nothing back. Why they do this, we do not fully know. But there it is, plain in the soil, a community caring for one of its own past all reason or reward. The trees, it seems, understand something we sometimes forget. That belonging is not a transaction, not a matter of what each can give the other. Sometimes we hold one another simply because we are joined, and to let go would be to lose a part of ourselves. The forest keeps its old ones close. So at our best and gentlest do we, from the loyalty rooted in the soil, turn to the loving human brain, and to how alike its many loves can be. When scientists look at the brain of a person deeply in love, and then at the brain of a new mother or father gazing at their child, they find something tender. The patterns overlap. Many of the same regions glow the same circuits of devotion and reward, and deep attachment, whether the love is for a partner or for a newborn child. The brain, it seems, draws on one deep wellspring for all its great loves, one ancient system of bonding that it turns toward whoever has become precious to us. Love is love in the brain's old language, whether it flows toward a lover, a child, a dear friend, the whole family of the heart drawing from a single source. There is something reassuring in that, in knowing that the warmth you feel for the people who matter most all springs from the same deep place within you. You are built for attachment, built to bond, built to pour your care toward others, and that capacity is one thing, whole, and undivided, ready to be given. However many you have loved, the love came from the same gentle root. From the loving brain, drift down once more into the body's hidden community, where even the smallest creatures within us speak to one another. We have wandered before through the world of bacteria that live inside us, but here is a wonder worth resting on. These tiny beings do not simply exist side by side in silence. They communicate. They release small chemical signals into their surroundings, a kind of molecular speech, and the others sense it and respond, coordinating their behavior, sensing how many of their kind are near, acting together as a community rather than as scattered individuals. Scientists have a name for this, the way bacteria take a kind of census through chemistry and act as one when their numbers are great enough. Even at the smallest scale of life we can find where there is no brain, no eye, no thought, there is still this reaching toward one another, this sensing of company, this acting together. The impulse to communicate, to coordinate, to not be alone runs all the way down to the tiniest living things there are. Connection is not something life invented late with brains and voices. It was there from very nearly the beginning, woven into life at its smallest root. To live at all, it seems, has always meant to reach toward others. From the speech of the smallest things rise to a quiet discovery from the rooms where we go to heal. Years ago, a researcher noticed something simple and lovely about hospital patients recovering from surgery. Those whose windows looked out on trees and sky, and a little patch of green, seemed to recover better than those whose windows faced only a brick wall. When the records were studied, it held true. Patients with a view of nature healed faster, needed less pain medication, and went home sooner than those who looked out on nothing living at all. Something about the presence of the green world, even glimpsed through glass, eased the body and softened the hurt. We are not separate from the living world around us. We are part of it, and some deep part of us is comforted simply by seeing that the trees are there, that the sky is open, that life goes on green and growing just beyond the window. The connection we crave is not only to other people, it is to the whole living world, to the trees and the birds and the open air, all of which can soothe us when we let them near. You belong not only to the people you love, but to the earth itself, and it can heal you if you let it close. From the healing green of the world, lift your eyes one last time tonight to the moon, our oldest and most faithful companion, who is slowly, gently leaving. The moon has circled the earth for billions of years, lifting the tides, lighting our nights, steadying the very tilt of our world so that the seasons stay gentle and life can thrive. But the moon is not standing still. Each year it drifts a little farther from us, only a few centimeters, about the speed your fingernails grow, but steady and unceasing across the ages. Far in the future, it will hang smaller in the sky than it does tonight. And yet, in any span of time that means anything to us, the moon is here, faithful, as it has always been, turning above us in the dark. There is a soft kind of poetry in a parting so slow it will never touch our lives, a goodbye stretched across billions of years, so gentle it is no goodbye at all. Some partings are like that, so slow and so far off, that they ask nothing of us but to love what is here now. Tonight the moon is exactly where it has always been, watching over the same dark world, the same sleeping people, as it has since long before there was anyone here to look up and feel less alone beneath it. Here is something that surprises almost everyone, a gentle correction to what we assume about who feels lonely. When we picture loneliness, we often picture old age, the quiet house, the empty chair, and that loneliness is real. But when researchers actually measure it across the whole span of a human life, they find that loneliness does not simply rise with the years. It comes in waves, and one of its highest peaks arrives surprisingly early in the late teens and the 20s. In those years we imagine as the most social and carefree of all. The young, surrounded by others, busy with the whole bright project of becoming themselves, often feel a loneliness as deep as any. They are finding their place, building their bonds from scratch, learning who they are, and that takes a quiet toll the smiling photographs never show. So if you are young, and you have felt this ache, even in the middle of a full and busy life, know that you are far from alone in it, that it is one of the most common feelings of those very years. And if you remember those years, you know they pass, that the bonds do form, that the lonely season of youth gives way to something steadier. The ache is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is simply part of the long human work of finding where you belong. From the private ache of becoming, turn to a simple kind of magic that happens whenever people move together as one. There is something that occurs when human beings move in unison. When they sing together, dance together, row a boat in rhythm, march in step, clap in time. Beyond the obvious pleasure of it, the body responds. Moving in synchrony with others actually raises our tolerance for pain, floods us with a sense of closeness and goodwill, and binds the group together with a warmth that mere conversation cannot reach. This is why people have always sung while they worked, danced around fires, chanted and swayed together through every culture and every age. The synchrony itself, the moving as one, dissolves a little of the boundary between us, makes many feel briefly like one. Our ancestors knew this in their bodies long before any scientist measured it. To move together is to belong together. So if you have ever felt that rush of connection in a singing crowd, or lost yourself happily in a dance among friends, that was no illusion. It was one of the oldest ways our kind has ever found to feel deep in the body that we are not alone. We were made to keep time with one another. From the rhythm we share with others, drift all the way back to the very first rhythm any of us ever knew. Before you saw a single face, before you breathed your first breath of air, before you knew light or cold or your own small hands, you knew a sound. The steady beat of your mother's heart, felt and heard all around you, in the warm dark, the first and most constant companion of your earliest existence. For months it was the rhythm of your whole world, the sound that meant you were held, that you were safe, that you were not alone. This is why a newborn calms when laid against a chest, soothed by the heartbeat it has known all along. It is why the slow, steady rhythms of certain music can ease us so deeply, echoing that first sound. We begin our lives in the closest company imaginable, never for one moment alone, cradled inside another living being, lulled by the beating of her heart. That first companionship is written into us so deeply that we spend the rest of our lives in some quiet way, seeking the comfort of it again, the steady nearness, the rhythm of another close by in the dark. You have known from before your very beginning what it is to not be alone. Some part of you has never forgotten. From that first remembered closeness, we touch gently on something harder, a reminder of just how much we truly need one another. We have spoken of solitude as something that can heal and restore, and so it can when it is chosen and gentle. But true and forced isolation, cut off entirely from every human contact for long stretches, is a different thing, and the mind suffers under it deeply. Those who study the effects of prolonged isolation find that it can leave marks as serious as a physical injury, disturbing thought, memory, and the very sense of self, in ways that can take a long time to mend. We tell this not to trouble you, but because it reveals more clearly than anything how essential other people are to us. We are not built to thrive alone. Connection is not a luxury we could do without if we had to. It is as necessary to a human mind as food is to the body, as light is to the eye. And knowing that changes how we see the ordinary company in our lives, the friends, the family, the familiar voices. They are not merely pleasant. They are part of what keeps us whole. The simple presence of others is one of the quiet pillars holding up a human life, and most of the time we never even notice it is there. From that sober truth, return to the warmth of reunion, to a tenderness shared by the great, gentle giants of the forest. Deep in the forests where they live, elephants greet one another, after time apart, with a joy that is unmistakable even to us. When members of a family come back together after a separation, they rush toward each other, they entwine their trunks, they flap their ears and spin about, and they rumble. Much of that rumbling is far too low for human ears to catch. a deep vibration that travels through the air and even through the ground, carrying for great distances a language of reunion we can barely sense. The elephants are speaking their joy at being together again, in tones we mostly cannot hear, a whole conversation of homecoming passing just below the edge of our hearing. There is so much love moving through the world that we never perceive, so much greeting and belonging happening in registers beyond our senses. The forest is full of reunions we will never hear, and somewhere even now 2 great gentle creatures are pressing close, after a time apart, rumbling their happiness into the earth, glad beyond our hearing, simply to be together once again. Here is a small and gentle power you carry, one you can use tonight just by putting words to what you feel. When a difficult feeling rises in us, fear, sadness, the ache of loneliness, there is a simple thing that quiets it, and it is almost too easy to believe. Naming it. Researchers found that when a person puts a feeling into words, even silently, even just to themselves, the alarm centers of the brain grow calmer and the thinking parts gently take the reins. To say, even in a whisper, "I am feeling lonely tonight," or "I am afraid," is not to make it worse. It is to soothe it, to give the formless thing a shape, and in giving it a shape, to loosen its grip on you. The feeling once named becomes something you are looking at, rather than something that has swallowed you. So if loneliness visits you in the quiet of some night, you might try simply naming it softly to yourself. There it is. That is loneliness. It will not harm me. Watch how the naming itself begins to settle it, the way speaking a frightened child's worry aloud begins to ease the child. You hold in language a quiet medicine. You can speak gently to yourself, and your own mind will listen and grow calm. From the comfort of our own words, turn to the wordless comfort of the animals who choose to share their lives with us. There is a reason a house feels different, with a dog asleep on the floor, a cat curled warm against your side. The comfort is not only in your head. When people simply sit in a room with a beloved pet, their blood pressure drops, their hearts slow, the tension eases from their bodies. The mere presence of a trusted animal, asking nothing, offering only its quiet company, soothes us in a way the body registers plainly. A pet does not need to do anything at all. It only needs to be there, breathing softly nearby, a warm and living presence in the room. And in return for our care, it gives us a companionship free of judgment, free of complication, steady and devoted and calm. We have lived alongside these animals for many thousands of years. And somewhere along that long road, they became part of how we comfort ourselves, part of how we feel less alone. The dog at your feet, the cat in your lap is doing real and gentle work, lowering the storms inside you simply by being near. Love, it turns out, need not even speak our language to heal us. From the warm company at our feet, lift your eyes to the stars, who, like us, are almost never born alone. We see the stars scattered across the night, and imagine each one solitary, set apart in its own pocket of dark. But stars are not born that way. They are born together in great clouds of gas and dust, dozens or hundreds or thousands of them, taking shape side by side, from the same vast nursery brothers and sisters of a single cloud. They begin their lives in clusters, crowded close, kindled together out of the same material. Only slowly over enormous spans of time do they drift apart, carried off on their separate paths through the galaxy, until each one travels alone and forgets it ever had siblings. Our own sun was born this way, among a family of stars long since scattered across the sky, brothers and sisters we can no longer find. Even the stars begin in company, and carry the memory of it written in the very stuff they are made of. Nothing in all the universe, it seems, truly begins alone. We are each born into some kind of company, kindled among others, and even when life carries us far from where we started, we carry that first belonging quietly within us, all our days. From the drifting stars, return to the tender workings of your own mind, and to how kindly it can be fooled. The brain holds a gentle secret about comfort. It cannot fully tell the difference between an embrace remembered, an embrace imagined, and an embrace truly happening now. When you vividly recall being held by someone who loves you, or even imagine it warmly enough, the brain responds in some of the same ways it would to the real thing, releasing a measure of the same comfort, the same quiet ease. This is why simply picturing a loved one's arms around you can soothe you on a hard night, why the memory of a tender moment can warm you long after it has passed. The love you have been given does not vanish when the moment ends. It lives on inside you, and you can return to it, summon it, wrap yourself in it again whenever you need to. No comforting embrace you have ever received is ever truly lost. It is stored within you, ready, and on any lonely night you can close your eyes and feel those arms again, and some real part of you will be genuinely comforted. You carry every kindness ever shown to you, and you can draw on it still. From the comfort we can summon within turn, to a time when loneliness at sea was taken as seriously as any storm. In the great age of sailing ships, when voyages stretched on for months and even years across empty ocean, the captains and doctors of those vessels came to understand that loneliness itself was a danger to be guarded against. Far from home, with the same few faces day after day and no shore in sight, sailors could sink into a deep melancholy that threatened their health as surely as scurvy or fever. And so the wise ships took measures against it. Music aboard, shared meals, songs sung together as the crew hauled the lines, festivals marked even in the middle of the sea. All of it meant in part to keep the spirits up, to hold the crew together, to keep the loneliness of that vast water from taking hold. They knew, those old sailors, what we are only rediscovering now, that the company of others is not a small thing but a necessity, something to be protected and tended like fresh water and good food. On the loneliest expanses our ancestors ever crossed, they kept themselves whole by keeping themselves together, by singing into the emptiness side by side. They understood that no ocean is too wide to cross, so long as you do not have to cross it alone. Feel again the gentle weight of the covers over you, because there is a quiet reason that weight itself can comfort us. People who struggle with anxiety, who lie awake with a restless mind, often find a strange relief beneath a heavy blanket, one of those quilts made deliberately weighty to press softly down upon the body. And the comfort is real and measurable. That gentle, even pressure across the body eases anxiety and helps the restless settle into sleep. The reason is tender. The weight mimics the feeling of being held, of being wrapped in someone's arms, of a hand laid firmly and lovingly upon you. The body, feeling that steady pressure, reads it as safety, as embrace, and lets go of its watchfulness. We are so made for the comfort of touch that even the weight of a blanket can stand in for it, can whisper to the nervous system that you are held, you are safe, you can rest now. So if you lie beneath something warm and heavy tonight, let it be more than cloth to you. Let it be a kind of embrace, the world itself, gently holding you down into rest, the way you were held long ago, the way some part of you always longs to be held. You are wrapped in something tonight that means to keep you safe. From the embrace of a blanket, drift out into the deep ocean where the great whales call to one another across distances we can scarcely imagine. The songs of whales are among the most haunting sounds in all the living world, low and long and carrying. And carry they do, for the deep ocean conducts their voices across astonishing distances, so that whales separated by vast stretches of sea far beyond any sight of one another can still hear each other singing. A whale's call can travel across great reaches of ocean, a voice reaching out through the dark water to others it cannot see who answer, from somewhere far away in the blue. They are never quite out of touch, these great creatures bound together across the emptiness, by sound alone, a web of songs spanning the sea. There is something deeply consoling in that image of voices reaching one another across distances that seem too vast to bridge, of connection that does not need nearness to be real. The ones we love are sometimes far from us, beyond our sight, beyond our reach. And yet the bond can still hold, stretched across any distance, like a whale song carrying through the dark water to someone listening far away who hears it and is glad and answers back. From the song that crosses the sea, return to your own quiet voice and to a gentle trick for the nights when you need a friend. When we are troubled, we often talk to ourselves, but usually in the first person, caught inside the feeling, saying, "I am so anxious I cannot manage this." Researchers found something lovely though. When a person speaks to themselves instead in the third person using their own name, the way a kind friend might, it calms them more effectively. To say gently, "You are all right. You have come through hard nights." Before you are safe, addressing yourself by name as a friend would, creates a small healing distance, lets you offer yourself the very comfort you would offer someone you love. It is as though you can step outside your own storm just enough to become your own companion in it. On a lonely night, you are never entirely without a friend, because you can be that friend to yourself, speaking softly, kindly by name, the way someone who loved you would. Try it when the dark feels close. Speak to yourself as gently as you would speak to a frightened child you adored. That kind voice you would use for someone else, you are allowed to turn it at last toward your own tender heart. From the company we can be to ourselves, lift your eyes to the great companion that has carried our whole world since the beginning. We speak of the Earth traveling through space, and we picture it sailing alone through the dark, a single blue world adrift. But the Earth has never once been alone, not for a single moment, in all its billions of years. It has always been held, always been accompanied, bound by an unbreakable thread of gravity to the sun circling it faithfully, carried along in its great slow journey through the galaxy. The Earth does not wander the cosmos by itself. It travels in the close and constant company of its star and of its sister planets, the whole family of the solar system, moving together through space as one. Not once in the entire history of our world has it been truly alone, and we riding upon it have never been alone either. Not in this deepest sense, always held within something larger, always carried, always accompanied by the great patient gravity that has never for an instant let us go. You are standing right now upon a world that is being held gently and unfailingly, and has been held since long before there was anyone here to feel afraid of the dark. From the held and traveling Earth, turn to a quiet idea that casts our loneliness itself in a kinder light. Why do we feel loneliness at all if it hurts so much? Researchers who study it have come to suspect something that changes how we might carry it. They believe loneliness may have evolved as a signal much like hunger or thirst. A built-in alarm meant not to torment us, but to protect us. Hunger tells the body it needs food. Thirst tells it to seek water. And loneliness, in this view, may be the feeling that tells us we need other people nudging us sometimes painfully back toward the company that has always kept our kind alive. The ache is not a malfunction. It is a message, and a caring one, a part of you trying to guide you home. We cannot be certain this is the whole story, for the mind is deep, and we are still learning its old purposes. But there is comfort, even in the possibility. It means the loneliness you feel is not a flaw or a brokenness. It is your own nature looking after you, reminding you gently of something true, that you are a creature made for others, and that the longing you feel is simply love calling you back toward where you belong. Picture a fire in the dark, and the people gathered close around it, because that small bright circle is one of the oldest homes our kind has ever known. For as long as there have been human beings, there have been fires in the night, and people drawn into a ring around them. The campfire pulls us into a circle, shoulder to shoulder, faces lit warm against the surrounding dark, and we have gathered this way for many thousands of years, longer than any city, longer than any written word. Around such fires, our ancestors told the first stories, sang the first songs, shared the day's hunt and the news, and the long, slow talk that knits a people together. Something in us still answers to it, still softens and opens at a fire, shared with others in the dark. The flames give warmth and light, yes, but the deeper gift is the circle itself, the gathering, the faces turned toward one another, and the glow. We are creatures of the fireside, made for the small warm ring of company against the wide dark night. And whenever a few people sit together in soft light and easy talk, some ancient part of us recognizes it and is glad and feels, however briefly, entirely at home in the world. From the warmth of the circle, return to the simplest sound of belonging there is, your own name spoken by someone who loves you. There is a particular ease that comes over the body at the sound of a familiar voice saying your name. Not a stranger's voice, not your name on a list, but the warm voice of someone who knows you, speaking your name the way only they say it. The body responds to it, the heart settling, a quiet calm spreading through you, a wordless sense of being recognized and safe. Your name in a beloved voice is one of the first sounds you ever learn to answer to, and it carries all your life, the feeling of being known, of being singled out from all the world as someone who matters to someone. It is why a voice on the phone saying your name can undo the loneliness of a whole hard day in a single moment. To be named gently by one who loves you is to be told without words that you exist, that you are held in someone's mind, that you are not forgotten in the great crowd of the world. There is a voice somewhere that says your name like that. And even now, even in the quiet, you can hear it if you listen and feel how the body answers, softening toward home. From the warmth of a name, drift down beneath the bright surface of the sea to the smallest builders who together raise the largest living things on earth. A coral polyp is a tiny, soft creature, hardly more than a little sac, with a ring of waving arms, fragile and small and easily overlooked. Alone it could do almost nothing. But coral polyps do not live alone. They live pressed together by the countless thousands, generation upon generation, each laying down a little stone of itself, building upon the skeletons of those who came before. And over ages, these tiny, soft creatures together raise the coral reef's vast living structures, so immense they can be seen from space, the largest living things our planet has ever made, teeming with a richness of life found almost nowhere else. The mightiest of living structures is built by some of the smallest and softest of creatures, simply by living close together, each adding its small part to a whole far greater than itself. None of them could ever have imagined the reef. None of them built it on purpose. They only lived together, and the togetherness across the ages became something vast and beautiful and alive. So it is, perhaps, with us, each small life adding its quiet part to something larger than any of us will ever see. From the great reef built of small lives, return to the tender comfort that the people we love can give us even from far away. When researchers asked people to endure a mild pain while looking at a photograph of someone they loved, they found that the pain hurt less. Simply gazing at the image of a beloved face dulled the body's sensation of hurt, eased it, the way a hand held in the dark eases fear. The loved one need not be present, need not say a word. Their face alone, looked upon with love, reaches into the body and softens the pain. This is why we keep photographs close, why we glance at the faces of those dear to us in hard moments, why a picture in a wallet or beside a bed can be such a quiet comfort. The people we love are with us, even when they are far away, even when they cannot be reached, their faces carrying a real power to soothe us across any distance. Look, on a hard night, at the face of someone who loves you and let it do its gentle work. They are nearer than they seem. The love between you is not bound by the room you are in, and it can reach you and ease you wherever you happen to be lying in the dark. From the faces we carry close, lift your eyes once more to the night sky, the one thing every human who has ever lived has shared. The stars above you tonight are very nearly the same stars that have looked down on every human being who has ever lived. The same patterns, the same slow wheeling lights watched by the first people around their fires, by every traveler and shepherd and dreamer of every age, by everyone who has ever lain awake and looked up and wondered. The same sky. When you gaze up into the dark and the scattered stars, you are looking at the very thing your most distant ancestors looked upon, the thing your children's children will look upon long after you are gone. It is the great shared window of all humankind, the one sight common to every life that has ever been lived on this earth. You are joined, through that sky, to every person who has ever existed. All of you beneath the same ancient stars, all of you small and wandering beneath the same vast dark. No one who has ever looked up at the night has been entirely alone in it. They were looking at what you are looking at now, and in that quiet way across all the centuries, you are keeping one another company still. And so we come gently to the truest thing of all, the quiet heart of everything we have wandered through tonight. For all the people we may be surrounded by, loneliness does not ease simply through crowds, through numbers, through being among many. The deep cure for loneliness is something quieter and rarer. It is the feeling of being truly known by even one. A single person who sees you, who understands you, who holds you in their mind with warmth, can dissolve a loneliness that a whole crowd could never touch. We do not need to be loved by everyone. We need to be truly known by someone, even one, even now and then. This is the gentlest and most hopeful truth the science of loneliness has found. The remedy is not popularity, not endless company, not a life crowded with faces. It is connection, real and deep, with even a single soul who knows you as you are. And that, unlike a crowd, is something within the reach of almost any life. One true bond, one person who sees you. That is enough to warm the whole of a human heart, and it always has been, and it always will be. Batch 19. Facts 91. 100 wind down. So let your body grow heavy now. There is nothing more to learn tonight. Only this quiet and the slow settling of everything into rest. Notice your breath, how it has already begun to slow all on its own the way breath does. When you feel safe, when some part of you knows it can let go. If there is anyone near you tonight, anyone sleeping in the next room, anyone breathing softly in the same house, your breath may already be drifting toward the rhythm of theirs the way it always has. The way bodies do when they feel safe together. And even if you are alone tonight, you are breathing the same air, in the same slow rhythm as everyone you have ever loved. Inside you all, through the dark and quiet of your body, your cells are still murmuring to one another, as they always do, passing their small signals back and forth, keeping you alive without a single thought from you. Not one of them is alone. Not one of them ever has been. You are made all the way down of countless small things, gently keeping each other company, even in the deepest stillness. You are a quiet conversation that never stops. Somewhere far off tonight, a lighthouse is still turning its slow beam, sweeping the dark water, keeping faithful watch for ships it may never see. And somewhere, sailors far from home see that light and know they are not alone. The world is full of such quiet keeping watch all through the night, lights turning patiently for strangers, just so that no one out in the dark need feel entirely lost. Feel the warmth gathered around you now, beneath the blankets, soft and close. Some of that warmth is the room, and some of it is simply you, your own body gently holding you through the night, the way it always has, the way it always will. You are being kept warm even now by the quiet, faithful work of your own living self. Far overhead, beyond the roof, beyond the clouds, the stars are still there. The same stars that once guided travelers across deserts and oceans, the same stars watched by everyone who has ever lived, drifting slowly on through the dark as they have for ages and ages. They are in no hurry. They ask nothing of you. They only shine quietly the way they always have. Over a world full of sleeping people, you among them now. And beneath all of it, beneath every thought, your heart is still beating. The same heart that has carried you since before your very first breath, the first companion you ever had, still here, still keeping time, still keeping you company in the dark. It has never once left you. It is with you now, slow and steady as you drift. All across the dark side of the turning world tonight, countless others are lying, just as you are awake in the quiet, breathing slowly toward sleep. Some of them lonely, some of them held, all of them human, all of them beneath the same night. You are part of that great gentle company of the wakeful and the resting, more numerous than you could ever count. all of you breathing together through the dark. And slowly, so slowly you will never feel it, the earth beneath you is turning, carrying you and everyone upon it gently toward the morning. You do not have to do anything. You are simply being carried along with all the rest of us, held by the patient turning of the world toward the light that is already somewhere far away beginning to rise. If the loneliness ever comes to visit you again, remember this. The ache itself is only proof of how deeply you were made to belong, how much you were built for one another. It is not a flaw in you. It is love looking for its way home. And you are held even now more than you know. Held by gravity which will never let you go. Held by the air you breathe. Held by the long, quiet company of everything that is alive. Of everyone who has ever lain awake beneath these stars. Of everyone breathing softly somewhere in the dark with you tonight. So rest now. You are not alone. You never truly were. I hope you sleep well and dream softly. Good night.